I wrote a book about the future called A Short History of a Long Future, which only a few people read. It was a science fiction about past, present, and future that proved to be very accurate, describing how mankind used technology to kill nature and recreate it, finding immortality on the way. It was in great part a story about my last life as Dr. Joe Ova. I also wrote a paper proposing shapes to atoms and mechanisms for physical laws. A young girl read my paper after I died, and it sparked such an interest in her that she became a Nobel Prize-winning physicist. Her work eventually allowed men to travel faster than light. This discovery paved the way for mankind to reach heights not imaginable before. It allowed me later, in my last immortal life as Dr. Joe Ova, to find my ancestors and my true home, my heaven. When I was about 65 years old, I woke up one day to find it unusually quiet. I went to my neighbors to say good morning, but the doors were locked, and I thought that they were either still in bed or already away. When I went outside, I found the roads deserted. It was very weird. I turned on my internet and looked at CNN. There was a breaking news alert about a sleeping sickness epidemic that had hit worldwide. It all started with night shift workers reporting unbelievable stories. Hospital workers reported that all their patients had died overnight, and that none of the daytime staff reported for the day shift. Similar reports were made by the energy and communication industries. It stated that initial reports claimed that everyone who fell asleep within the last 24 hours had died in their sleep. It urged that you try to keep awake as long as possible in the hopes that this plague eventually passed. The reporter continued that he had been up for 24 hours covering the story and that he had nobody else to replace him. He urged that power stations be put on automatic and left running when there's nobody left to run them. He urged internet providers to do the same. Then, with a sobbing voice, he said that he would put his head down for a while as he was so very tired. I called my son and my family, but there was no answer. All I could do was leave an urgent message that they call me back. I went back to the neighbors and rang their doorbells. None of them answered. I went to the hospital nearby, and there was a handful of tired night shift workers in shock. All the patients had died overnight, and no one reported for the day shift. I informed them about the CNN report I just saw, urging everyone to stay awake. Then I went back home and saw the CNN reporter had set up a divided screen, with one showing a taped and repeating message, the one I heard before, and on a smaller screen it showed him with his head down on the table. The text line ran, a plea. Please leave everything open and turned on. Please do not lock or turn anything off. I cleaned my house, specially cleaned that day, and then I went to bed and fell asleep. The next morning, not a soul was to be seen outside. The village was deserted. The stores were closed, and the middle of the day seemed like it was the middle of night. The only sound and life seen were house pets and farm animals starting to roam out of their territory. I broke into a house with a Ferrari, found the keys, and drove to Bern. Bern was deserted as well. Suddenly I had everything for the taking that I had ever wanted, but I somehow didn't want anything except a human being. There was no one but me. I kept driving and was able to use cash from cash registers to fill up the tank whenever I needed to. I went to all the big cities, driving through them to see it had any life. All were deserted. I reached Zurich and found it deserted as well. All I heard were either my own honking or a deafening silence. I stayed overnight in Zurich in a penthouse of a luxurious hotel, and the next day I went to the university and walked around. There, by chance, I saw a young girl lying under a tree in the park. I assumed she was dead, and she was just as startled as I was when she woke up and saw me. We hugged each other silently for a long time. She was just 16, and in the beginning I thought of her as a daughter. Anne and I wandered around Zurich and found it deserted. We went to the library and looked at all the knowledge that was beyond our grasp. We wondered if there were more people who were alive at the moment. We wondered what would happen to humanity if it was just us who survived. We immediately set priorities to have as many children as we can. We made wonderful love under the tree that we met each other 1 month before. We got all the books we could get on farming and found a small farm on the outskirts of Lucerne on the lake. We raised chickens and milked cows. We didn't have a garden because we could get frozen vegetables and fruit anytime we wanted to. Electricity continued to be supplied, and freezers and machines needing electricity continued to function. We used cash to fill our car with fuel at any gas station we went to. The internet continued to function as well, and we regularly checked our email only to find the usual spam. We scanned the internet for any signs of life anywhere and found 100 people logged on to Skype. We tried to speak with them but found that most spoke languages we could not understand. All were too far away to visit, and all were alone, looking for survivors. Some made a great effort to meet other survivors. One girl, whose father was a ship captain, took her father's cargo ship across the ocean to meet a man. She spent her life as a matchmaker, arranging partnerships via the internet. One day, we found a listing on Wikipedia for the sleeping death epidemic. It claimed that out of every 100,000 people worldwide, only one person survived. The cause was a genetically manipulated virus that induced deep sleep. The virus leaked out of the labs and for a while used fungus spores to spread. Within months, the virus had spread worldwide and had infected everyone. It lay dormant for a few years, and during a very active phase of the sun and a full moon, the virus was activated. The host, falling asleep, triggered the virus to release arsenic cyanide, causing instant death. The virus did not attack animals other than humans. It was indifferent to race, religion, wealth, or nationality. People immune to this man-made virus had a gene that allowed the body to bind the arsenic cyanide in a harmless form. Our worries of what would happen when the internet eventually shut down and things stopped working slowly started to materialize about 1 year later. Up to then, the gas machines worked most of the time and accepted cash for gas. Then they slowly stopped working, and we had to break into the tanks underneath to pump gas out of them.